Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the Karl von Schönberg. I apologize about the pronunciation, but this ship is available for 2,500 doubloons as a premium battle pass reward. So if you're interested in it, should you potentially give up those 2,500 doubloons to get a tier 6 destroyer? Fortunately, it's not at the end of the battle pass, so you just get it immediately. So perhaps it's better thought of as you're buying the Schonberg here for 2,500 doubloons, and then if you play the game through this update, you get some of the later battle pass rewards as well, including some camos, but the main goal here is to get the Schonberg for 2,500 doubloons. And I like this a lot, I really do. Been hard on wargaming over FOMO mechanics, kind of psychological tricks to get you to spend money or more money on this game than you otherwise would. Time-based mechanics, all that. We all know how the gaming industry is these days. And it's not just wargaming, okay? I'm hard on wargaming because that's the game I cover, but it's basically all game devs these days, right? So it's a little bit rough. But here we have a different example where you spend the 2,500 doubloons on the battle pass and you just get the ship straight up. I think that's really, really good. So what is this? This is a tier 6 German destroyer with a heal. You get a DD with a heal at tier 6? What? That's crazy. So we're building it full gun build here. Of course, trying to maximize that DPM because we can afford to take a hit and heal a little bit of HP back. We actually get 4 heals here. They're not the most powerful heals. They only heal back 10% of your HP, and that's it. So you get 40% is pretty good over the entire game, but you still need to make use of every single heal. Destroyers don't have a lot of HP. If you take a bad engagement, you're gonna die rather quickly, only using perhaps 1 heal even. So you gotta be careful still. But having this 16,500 HP to start with, you could take Survivability Expert. We'll see on the build that I was very greedy for damage. You can make it a little tankier. But let's talk about these main guns, because they're essentially Gaede guns. Again, pronunciation, I apologize. But the tier 6 German DD having 150mm guns, so are these. They have a 7-second reload instead of the 7.5-second reload we see on the Gaede, which is really nice. The AP being 150mm gets us some pretty nice pen. At 8 kilometers, it's something like 90, 100mm a pen, something like that. So into light cruisers, you will do some very, very nice damage. Now, it's not just a straight DPM upgrade over the tier 6 Gaede. It's going to be in AP better because it retains the same AP shells, but the HE shells actually do quite a bit less damage, so you're not going to get that full HE DPM. So it's really an AP-focused ship, although the HE is not bad. It is not bad, especially because you pen 38mm of armor, which is kind of a joke, because what has 38mm of armor at this tier? No cruisers, no battleships have anywhere close to that. Or it's all of the low-tier Dreadnought battleship armor where it's way more than that, like 100, 200mm of armor just covering everything. So what's nice is you basically pen everything with your HE whenever you're using it, outside of some of those very specific battleships at low tiers. So it's nice to have. Even though the alpha damage is lower, you're still going to see some pretty decent salvos there when all of the shells connect. Still only 4 guns. DD dispersion's good, but you're going to notice we miss some shells here and there. So it can be a little bit frustrating with that longer reload when all of your shells end up missing and you're just waiting and waiting and waiting. But when they hit, it is pretty nice damage. I will say, though, that the fire chance is slightly lower as well, only 11% from the Gaede's 12%. But other than that, that's pretty much the same guns. Pretty nice to have, I gotta say. Torpedo power is slightly reduced compared to the Gaede as well. So instead of 8 kilometers, we only get 7.5 kilometers of range. And taking no concealment here, I'm still just barely able to stealth torp, which is nice. But you could take more concealment and make these torps a bit more comfortable to use. The damage is the same, the reload is the same. The speed is slightly slower though, so a little bit worse in that regard. And that's compared to the Gaede. Unfortunately, there's another German tier 6 DD, the T-61. Now, you haven't been able to get this ship for a very long time, but it's kind of busted, overpowered. So this Schonberg is not going to be anywhere near that level of power. It's still very interesting, but the torpedoes are the same. They retain that higher speed of the Gaede as well on the T-61, except you just get a 68-second reload instead of 90 seconds. The ship also has better detection, so it's going to get down to like 6.1, 6.2 detect when you take conceal build on the T-61. The DPM on it is also just way higher, the HE DPM being 90,000, Schonberg being 60,000, Gaede being 70, so T-61's a little busted. Very good reason that ship is no longer available. And to talk about the consumables here just real quick, I've already mentioned this healing, which is really nice, but you're giving up the hydro as well as the smokes. So it's going to be a bit tough, especially if you're not used to open water destroyer gameplay. It's pretty good, I gotta say. It felt pretty nice to play, but if you're not used to open water gunboat DDs, it could be a bit of a problem. You're not the fastest DD in the world either, so if you're used to playing the Kleber line, for example, especially higher tier like that, you're used to using speed as the way to avoid damage, and this ship is not quite fast enough to do that. Even with the engine boost, it's only an 8% engine boost, which is standard, right? So it's fine, but it's no 20 or even 30% like we're seeing on some of the higher tier ships these days. But it's a decent ship still. We are hopefully going to kill this Stored, so dealing with multiple destroyers in this game, very, very nice. As always, I find healing to be one of the most important things that you can have in this game. There's a lot of randomness, of course, so there's times where you can just take a bunch of damage, and even though you're playing well, angled, or anything like that, sometimes the game just deals you a ton of damage, and to be able to heal back from that is really, really nice. Of course, also, we can make mistakes, myself included, where we make massive mistakes early on. It's nice to have healing to come back in the later game, and maybe if you get into a very close match, that's going to make a difference. We got ourselves a 2v2 here, ourselves and a battleship versus a battleship and a carrier. Fortunately, at this tier, we should be maneuverable enough to avoid the carrier salvos. At higher tier, the damage starts to ramp a little bit more, but I'm relatively confident here. We get the resets in on the Arizona here, and we should just be able to HE him out. Really, really nice to be able to just full pen battleships at this tier. It's really powerful. Even though that HE is slightly nerfed compared to the Tech Tree Tier 6, and the AP is the same, I still want to shoot more HE just because people tend to angle. You know, as soon as you slap them for 2, 3, 4,000 damage with the AP, they tend to get the idea and angle. So you still want to be using that high explosive. But it's a pretty good ship, man. Already up to 85k damage in this one. Sorry about having a small match, by the way. Didn't mention that at the beginning, but it's patch day here on NA here when I'm playing. Morning patch day, so there's not a lot of people playing, I guess. Or at least at these tiers, there's not as many people playing, so smaller game, but that does show us a little bit on how it would do in ranked, perhaps, as well. Smaller matches mean that there's more room to maneuver, play around the map, more space to make better decisions or worse decisions. You have more room to play well or play worse, I suppose, without just sort of forced to play standard camping roles around your spawns or on your side of the map. There's more room to maneuver, which I really, really do like. We finished the Arizona, and now just the Serov here. So we're going to use the HE, but hey, that AP's got some decent pen. If we goes broadside, maybe we can get ourselves some big damage there as well. We're getting very close to actually proccing Lucian's. We procced his heal earlier in this game, which is very nice to have on destroyers. But once we get 140 hits, we're going to get a reload buff. So you're going to see the most DPM this ship will be capable of. It's still a pretty long reload, to be honest with you. But I think we get it over like 5-second reload, something like that. AP has been swapped to 8 kilometers. Surely we have the pen here, right? Gotta hit those citadels, and we do all 4. Absolutely ridiculous salvo. Another citadel there, and he's almost done for. However, he's turning away, and I haven't adjusted my aim point. Now I will aim a little bit up to try and still hit those citadels. But guess what? This aiming system tries to move your shells away from where you're aiming. So we're just gonna have all our shells go low. It's something I complain about in battleships all the time because it's so frustrating to have a 30, 40-second reload and have that happen. It still happens on DDs. Or cruisers. At least we have a faster reload to compensate, but it's still kind of annoying how the aiming system works in this game. It's aim assist, in case you're wondering, and it's there to help you, but it doesn't take into account how a ship is going to maneuver after the shells are fired. It only takes into account how the ship is moving when the shells are fired. So if someone turns away, well, their ship's going to be a little further from you compared to when the shells were fired, and that's why the shells get pulled low. The game thinks you're aiming too high, when in fact you're not. And unfortunately, there's no way to turn it off. And I really wish there was. But that's a story for another video. So back to the Karl Schönberg here. I think it's a pretty decent ship for 2,500 doubloons. Of course, you'll have to weigh up if it's worth that to you. It's still a tier 6 DD, and it is a little compromised. It's certainly not going to be the meta-defining tier 6 ranked destroyer here. T61 is still just amazing. And I know you can't get it anymore, but you're going to run into them, is the key here. This ship is absolutely busted. But Schonberg is a cool gunboat DD. To have a heal at this tier is neat. And I really, really like that Wargaming has added it at the start here. That's super cool. It almost feels like there's multiple people in charge. Like, there's no one vision for the game sometimes, where it feels like, wow, this is a really nice player-conscious decision to give Schonberg here at the start of the battle pass, so you pay your doubloons and you get the ship. And then we have other things like the Hildebrand in this one, where you're gambling on it until you get the 50,000 doubloons spent, and then you can get it for 1 credit, or some of the other not so great mechanics like the FOMO events, like the Dockyard, for example, is one of those. Like, sometimes Wargaming does like the best things that I can praise and say, wow, this is an amazing, good for players monetization strategy. And then the next time it's like, okay, well, I mean, it's a free-to-play game, and I guess we're taking after the crazy mobile game gambling mechanics or whatever. It's so weird. But hey, in this one, good job, Wargaming. I really like this. Continue to do more events like this where ships are just available for a direct purchase. There's no extra psychological tricks to get people to spend more money. It's just straight up, and I respect that. As for the build here, I went rather greedy on damage. Range, reload, reload, reload. Giving up conceal, giving up even survivability expert. At tier 6, it's still valuable, but you only get a certain amount of HP per tier, right? So at tier 10, you're getting more HP just because you have more tiers, more stacks, I suppose. We definitely want things like Last Stand, preventive maintenance as well. And the turrets are really slow to turn, so Grease the Gears is pretty much mandatory here. I still felt like they were a bit slow, but we also found that they weren't the most accurate, right? And aiming system mod, I still had it enabled. So to remove this in favor of turret traverse, I would not do that. I think you're going to be more frustrated by that. Sure, you got to wait a little longer for your turrets to turn, but at least they're going to hit a little more often. And I personally would value that a little bit more. Well, that's the ship. That's the battle pass, a reward here, and it's right at the start. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.